Aloha. Welcome into our Tuesday wrap up, and congratulations to all of you that hit our picks this week. We are firmly now in the driver's seat in the plus column for the year. Definitely, again, going back to that Thursday money line, Thanksgiving parlay was a nice little bonus there that came home. But no, this week we gave 3 picks, and oddly enough, they actually were early game, late game, night game, all on Sunday and all in a row. And weirdly, the Jets was the first of our 3 picks and the one loser. What's nice about that is, again, I don't subscribe to this. I go evenly across the board, whether I like one way more than the other. Like I told you guys, I loved Seattle this week. That wasn't one of our picks, but I told you guys that with the data, with the money line parlays and stuff, and a lot of pundits and experts were taking Atlanta plus the 7.5. I told you personally, I loved Seattle, and I thought that they would blow Atlanta out for various reasons. But in any event, what my point is that with any picks, if let's say you're betting 100 a unit, or your unit is 100, Jets, the Green Bay game, and then the Houston game, all 100, 100, 100. But some people have reached out, and they basically, if they start out with losing the first one, they'll sprinkle a little more or double up on the second one, and so forth and so on. So in any event, it actually fell a little bit of luck in our favor. It fell just perfectly where the Jets was our first pick and loser of the day in the early game. And again, it's one of those things. Tyrod Taylor didn't even play 5 or 6 downs, and he goes out with a groin injury. Miami scored quickly 1, 2, 3 touchdowns, and it was quickly a 21-0 game. But Tyrod Taylor going out, just, again, those are the excuse me, those are the things that we can't see coming. Now, if we know there's a pre-existing injury and so forth, yeah, you then can kind of maybe factor that in. But that came out of nowhere. He went and sat, and of course, then the Jets' backup quarterback was just, oh my God. And Tua playing in the cold, and lo and behold, Miami's now in the argument mix for that 7th wild card seeding, or they think they are. I don't see that happening, but the NFL's so weird this year, you never know. In any event, we missed the Jets, but we pull out the win on the Green Bay. Now, mind you, it was -6 or 6.5 at worst, and they won by a touchdown. But if you watch that game, going into the half 14-3, Green Bay controlled and dominated the game through 3 quarters. Chicago got a little plucky in the 4th quarter, I'll grant you, when they tied it up. The thing about when a team gets that momentum and ties it up, it's bad if you're on the favorite and they're having to come from behind and tie it up, because that's harder. But with Chicago tying it up now, okay, Green Bay gets the ball, and what are they going to do? And sure enough, then they go down and get their score, and putting all the pressure back on Green Bay, or on Chicago, the visitor. And so my point is, with that one, it got a little tight, but it was never really in jeopardy or question, especially at the end there, the way Green Bay's defense closed it out. And then, of course, we had Houston on Sunday night. For those of you who have followed us since week 1, again, that is a big win, easy win when you're taking points and win outright. But on top of that, hopefully you bet the money line. Like, again, if my units are 100 a unit, I definitely would maybe put a quarter or a half a unit on the money line as well, and that paid better than like almost 2 to 1. So that's some extra sugar there for you guys as well. So congratulations, all that. On top of that, I want to give you the quote of the day, but it ties into a recap of last week with all the bad referee calls and everything. So give me a minute on the quote of the day as we review the final of the week. We told you guys for those of you that are blessed to mess around with some money lines and some money line parlays. Again, I loved Seattle. I took Seattle. I bet Seattle, but for fun, for like they say, shits and giggles, lunch money, coffee money, $5 or $10 on, a 3, 4, or again, we told you 4 is kind of the max. Don't put 5s hard. But when you're doing round robins, we told you guys absolutely 2s and 3s, or 2s, 3s, and 4s if you're so blessed. This week was amazing because some records have it at 4. We have it at 5 that covered because Minnesota, Washington, at least where I live in Seattle, the line flipped. Where at BetMGM on Saturday night, Minnesota was actually a 2-point dog, 1.5 or 2 points depending on what time you caught it. So a money line dog outright, the barking dog parlay. If you would have taken just all the dogs across the board, not including Monday night separate, but you would add Monday night. Remember, I teach you guys how to just add whatever. And actually, good point with Monday night. The Chargers was the fit. Let me go through it. So the Jets lost, of course. Atlanta lost, of course. But we had New Orleans a winner, Minnesota an outright blowout winner, 2 dogs. Indy loser. Pittsburgh was a dog and 1 outright. Tennessee was a dog and 1 outright. That's already 4. Cincinnati could have, but weird interception and then another turnover late sealed it for Buffalo. Raiders, I'm going to touch on that game with the referees, but Raiders never had a chance covering, so they lost. Chicago lost to Green Bay. The Arizona Cardinals got blown out by the Rams, but now we've got number 5, which is Houston beating KC outright. And if you then threw on Monday night, like we teach you, that was 6. Again, doing the round robins with 2s, 3s, and 4s, I get how much it cost. I get that if you got, so you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 teamers that you did a round robin where you did 2s, 3s, and 4s. But even whether you did it at $1 a piece, $2 a piece, $5 a piece, whatever you're blessed to afford to do, a round robin, yes, it does get a little pricey, but you hit you hit more than 5 4s because 5 dogs would be 5 4s. So you hit like probably at least 8 4s, if not more. I'd have to do the math because 6 dogs won outright. So you hit a bunch of 4-teamers, a ton of 3-teamers, quite a few 2-teamers, and all of those absolutely not just paid for your investment, but you probably doubled or tripled your money depending on if you were able to throw in the 4s. The 2s and the 3s absolutely covered you. But if you're blessed enough to have covered the 4-ways, the 4-teamers, congratulations, you made out like bandits. That's a month worth of units for you to play the rest of the year out. And along those lines, the look ahead, and we're going to get into college here in the bowl season and the playoffs that's coming up, the CFP. We want to kind of break, or the way I'm looking at it, because it's so expensive, because there's so many bowl games, I'm kind of breaking it up to the early start, like the December 20s, the early 20s to like the 26th, and then like the second set, which would be like the 27th to like the first week of January. So because otherwise there's just too many where the round robin would be too hard and too expensive to cover. Now, if you are blessed enough to have that kind of money and you can afford it, I would absolutely do it, where I would just literally blindly put every single dog except for the obvious ones, like for instance Oregon playing, the teams that they let in on this college playoff so that they don't get sued for the business practices or whatever. So Oregon's like a 21-point favorite. They're not going to lose in that first round. So obviously, I mean, yes, In the pros, anything can happen. College is a little bit more defined, a little bit more predictive. They may not cover the 21. They are not going to lose that game. So that is one, I'm leaving off. So what I mean, the obvious ones. There, if you look at the schedule going into the bowl games and all the matchups, there like Army's a 3-point favorite. I can't remember off the top of my head by who, but anything that's like under a 10-point favorite, like an 8 and below kind of thing, if you are blessed to have that kind of money and you enjoy it, I absolutely would just blindly put all of the dogs on a money line parlay and play round robins with the by twos, by threes, by fours, and if you're blessed, even by fives, because all it would take is a couple of 5-teamers to hit, that you're getting all of your investment back on money line parlays. But again, we will get to that and cover that in the coming weeks. Right now, we are looking at just this week with the pros and the Army Navy game, which there is heavy money that have come in so far on Navy because it opened up at 4, and as of yesterday, I saw 6.5. So be aware of that. We don't have a pick on that game as of now, but I will tell you that is some serious line movement early on, being that game's on Saturday, and it's kind of a standalone college game. Really, it's kind of like the closeout of the college season historically. All right. Anyway, let me get to that. So that was what we had touched on as well. But again, so for our overall picks, we went 2 winners, 1 loser. We had over-unders where this one gets a little bit, so we had one easy, we had both 2 unders, but we had the KC Houston game to stay under, which was really easy, and we had Denver Raiders to stay under. Now here's the caveat to the Denver Raiders game. So 24-17 is 41. The over-under, the official line was 40.5. But, mind you, we have taught you since week 1 to always buy back the max points. You absolutely could have won less with the minus, the taking 2 more points. So instead of minus 110, you'd probably be like minus 160. But the 2 points, we keep telling you, a half a point matters. 2 points matters. So we are counting that as a win because since week 1, we've preached to you guys to buy back the points. So we had the Raiders Denver under at 42.5, and KC, it didn't matter at 42.5 because the total was at 30. So easy cover there. So we gave you 2 winners on the sides with Jets losing. We had 2 over-unders, both came home nicely, and we hit 5 of the money line underdog parlay team. 5-teamer basically did hit, but we had multiple 4s. Actually, a 6-teamer would have hit, but we wouldn't have gone that far. But you had 6 5s. You had 6 5s, a bunch of 4s. We never went with the 5s and the 6s. But if you did, you really, congratulations. But you hit multiple 4s, multiple 3s, and multiple 2s, and so you got all your money back and then some. You at least doubled your money in your investment there. So congratulations. We are now, again, as we preached from week 1, we said the deeper we get, because now you're starting to see, like we liked, and I'll touch on that real quick going into this weekend as well. The tiers, if you go back and look some of my early recordings, we talked about tiers. And who did we put at tier 1? Weeks ago, we told you the Rams. The Rams and Green Bay and Seattle so the Rams were at that top tier. And actually, we were wrong with Philly. Philly has degraded themselves. But at the moment when we put it in there, we told you it was kind of the Rams and Philly up there at the tier 1. And tier 2 or right below was kind of Green Bay and then Seattle and so forth. On the AFC side, we told you the tiers where, like Kansas City early on was a tier 1. Baltimore degraded quickly. We never had Baltimore at a tier 1, But we did have, like Denver, we even have the tickets for Super Bowls for this year that we bet early on, that we showed you guys in week one, how to bet $5, $10, and win 5 figures. We showed you guys those with the exactas and so forth, and we'll get to that as well, because right now there's some good opportunity to kind of hedge what things are happening, because the way the NFL is playing out, there could be some weird stuff happening, and it wouldn't cost you much to cover and I guess cover your bases. For like us, we never had Baltimore as one of the Super Bowl contenders. Mathematically, they're still in. Right now, to win their division, they're like plus 140 or something. But to win the Super Bowl, they're like at plus like 5,000 or something. So what I would do is, I don't think that they're going to the playoffs or the Super Bowl, but to bet $5 to hedge that, just in case that they should go on a run. We did have actually a lot of tickets with Cincinnati. That was our one AFC team that didn't come to fruition. We had the Steelers, we had the Patriots, we had Denver, but we did not have. Oh, and we had the Chargers, but we did not have Indy, which seems to be they're going to fall apart here now with no quarterback. And we did not have Baltimore, but we did have Cincy on a few. Those of you might be rolling your eyes right now going, well, Cincy's out. Hear me out. There's a couple of weird scenarios that absolutely could play out. And to that point, to bet them right now before the weekend with their long shot to make the Super Bowl. Again, we don't think that it's going to happen, but it's a $5 or $10 hedge bet that if it comes to fruition, it more than covers everything that we're about to talk about. So anyway, we'll get into all of that. But again, congratulations to everybody that has followed us, learned from us, and we are basically not a normal point spread picker, because we're not assuming everybody's betting 100 or 500 or 1,000 a game. We're catering to those of you who really, really just either looking for some fun, or are really that you don't have the blessing and the means to be betting heavy, but we're teaching you how to do $5 and $10 bets that can really maximize a good payout, like our editor and producer and my son will show you in the tickets today. None of these are winners, but we put it up for to make a point that there are ways that you can play, and these are ones I hadn't touched on really too much in the past weeks. We did a little bit, but I'm going to show you even another way that you can maximize your $5 and really get a huge return. Should have it. Is it easy? No, but some of them are kind of obvious, if or common sense, if you will, if you kind of look at the teams and the team script, if you will, of game after game after game, and we'll get into it. But let's finish. So the wrap up there, really good week for everybody. Congratulations. Now we'll get into our quote of the week, which is, life is an echo. What you send out comes back. What you sow, you reap. What you give, you get. This is Zig Ziglar, who is a famous American author and one of the early motivational speakers. And also, you can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want, which is kind of his mantra. He says honesty, character, integrity, faith, love, and loyalty are foundation stones for balanced success. And that really, truly is true. And Shakespeare said, no legacy is so rich as honesty. I say all this to get to the point of the dirty refs. So there's a lot of talk right now on YouTube, on TikTok, and whatever, all these different platforms about especially the Raiders game. There's a lot of games. So we talked about last week, right? Indianapolis, how we lost that game versus Kansas City. That the way it worked out, or the we didn't lose it, but the Indy Houston game, the way it fell apart was a bad pass interference call going over the middle. That again, a lot of people are showing you on YouTube. The defender was literally a step behind the receiver and never touched him, and yet flags came flying. Now, I get these old dudes throwing flags and can't see 10 yards downfield. That's why they should get rid of them. But I get, okay, you threw the flag because you think you saw what you think you saw. But where is New York? Where is the video guys? Where is the upstairs? And where is all the other refs and zebras on the field going, because they do congregate, and they have picked up flags over the years and in the past, where they talk about it, okay, there's no foul, and a lot of us would scream like, well, somebody threw a flag, somebody saw something. And a lot of times we've seen them pick up flags where somebody called the foul, it was a foul, and then they pick up the flag. Well, here's a case where, again, the one crying about the one we lost a couple weeks ago, the interference never took place. Then Kaimi Fairbairn kicks the field goal, the ball goes outside of the upright, and they call it good. And even the announcer literally calling the game was like, he said, no good, he missed. And then he said, wait, what? They're calling it good. So that's kind of obvious. And so here's my 2 cents on it and my low, opinion on it. I don't think that the NFL is in on it. They've got too much to lose and not enough to gain in it. And I don't think they're involved in the gaming or the gambling side of any of this, to be honest. But this past week, the Raiders game was highly suspect. Not so much Pete Carroll going for the field goal with a few seconds left, because he explained it. His thinking was they need 2 scores. Kick the field goal now. If there's a second left, hope that he assumed or thought there'd be 1 second or more left on the clock. You onside kick it, get a funny bounce. On the funny bounce, somebody has the ball and runs for a touchdown. It's possible. Highly unlikely, but possible. You can see the thought process behind that. I get it. He killed a lot of people with that kick. But there's an explanation. Where I don't buy it, and again, now I'm talking about the integrity of the referees, and NFL needs to do something about these guys, is if you go back and look at the play that got them the clock stoppage to get the field goal, that's the suspect. The Denver defender tackles the Raider, and he wasn't egregiously laying on the guy or not moving. He tackles him and gets right up. I mean, I don't think anybody could have moved any faster in that moment. But with the clock running, they're never going to get on the field to kick the field goal. And so a single ref throws a flag and calls delay of game, which stops the clock and moves them 5 yards closer for the kicker. Highly, highly unusual, highly suspect. And I've watched other really reliable and trustworthy YouTubers in the sports industry, and like one guy, Whitlock, has a podcast where he talked about it with I don't know the guy's name. He's an Asian guy, and he literally talks about the gambling aspect of it and stuff. And he says, look, if you don't think that there's some shenanigans going on, then I got a bridge to sell you, basically, because it's human nature that stuff like this would happen. And so my opinion or my guess is that, again, I don't think the NFL is involved in any way. I don't think teams are involved. I don't think generally majority of the players aren't involved. I don't think coaches definitely are not involved. I do think, though, there's a ref or two here or there that has something to gain monetarily and takes the chance. Again, human nature. Not all of us are honest. Not all of us have integrity. And, it's more likely than not, right? So that, my only point, I guess, to this whole thing is that Are there dirty refs? Probably, right? That would be my guess. But not all of them. But you get some that are like, again, when I see certain ones refereeing my game or the game that I have money on, I'm like, oh my God, I hope I'm on the right side. Because I've seen through the years that ref makes so many questionable or bad calls. And that's the bottom line, or I guess that's the problem with this whole thing. There's no accountability and there's no repercussions for all their shenanigans. If you get a ref that calls bad call after bad call after bad call and blows, either doesn't make a call where it's obvious or makes these phantom calls and it's over and over and over and multiple times through a year, especially week after week kind of a thing, and the NFL doesn't do anything about it, then that's on them. And that's where I think there needs to be an accountability, because these guys are getting paid $250,000 or more. It's a part-time gig for them. They're over here now on the take, maybe from somebody outside controlling an outcome, because a referee has so much power in the game with a random flag here or there that it still may not work out because the other team's so good, like the Rams. But with a tight game like the Cleveland-Tennessee game, flags absolutely make a difference. A false start, a 5-yard, a holding, an illegal contact, anything. Give them 3 more downs and move the ball. Oh my God, it's game-changing. So, again, not everybody has integrity. And again, like I talked about on Thanksgiving, speaking of integrity, again, I used to work in a different... in my prior life, I was in law enforcement, but last year and the year before, post-COVID, I was doing some Pokemon streaming and stuff, and I worked with a guy who, again, all things, the chickens come home to roost, because, he tried to steal something from my own kids, because it's a valuable Pokemon card, and bottom line is we did a police report, and it's still a pending case, and like I said at Thanksgiving, if we get it to go to the grand jury, which it's headed there, and we get a true bill on the attempted, because we got back the item, but in an attempted theft, it still carries the same weight as the actual theft, and this one is a felony, and for that, again, chickens coming home to roost. You be naughty, you might get caught with your hand in the cookie jar. And that's what we hope with all these politicians, and that's what we hope with all these referees, is we just want integrity, honesty, clarity, and transparency. Is that so hard? Again, going back to my quotes, if people just were honest, had character and integrity, faith, love, and loyalty, those are the foundations, stones for a balanced success and a great life. You know what I mean? So hopefully we can all get on the same page with that. But man, the refs, and my condolences to those of you who were on the Denver Broncos, because if you watch that game, they dominated that game. It was the biggest blowout of a 7-point cover I've ever watched. Denver was, you could tell they were just trying to run out the ball, run out the clock, get out of there with no injuries, and move on, because it was like a gimme for them by the time they had run up the score, 24-7 or 24. I think it was 24-7 or whatever it was. It was pretty much well in hand, and they knew it. But they're not worried about spreads. They're just worried about, again, making it to the playoffs, getting to the Super Bowl, and staying injury-free. They just got back Surtain, so that's a big one. So that's my point, is that you can't count on the teams to run it up just because. A lot of times weird stuff happens in these games, and that's why we try to account for that as well. And historically, again, that's why you don't like to lay huge numbers in the pros. Anything over a touchdown, like a 7 and a hook, that's why a lot of pros and sharps and pundits and stuff were on Atlanta last week, because 7 and a hook at home is huge. And if you would have looked at it halftime at 6-6, until Shaheed broke that kick return for a touchdown after Atlanta scored the field goal, that game was pretty tight. But again, I always thought and felt that my analysis of that game was that they're just two different tiers of teams. So anyway, so speaking of that, going into this week, we definitely want to be careful. So this is really a weird week because there are some huge lines. And so we have a couple of different approaches that we are going to take a look at here. And let me just get my notes here for you guys. So one of the things I'm doing this week, again, this is not official picks, just trying to help you guys and make a little scratch. For those of you who did do the moneyline parlay last week, opportunity to do it again, and now you can afford to do it with house money, so to speak. This is ugly. This is ugly as it gets. But you might want to take, for instance, excuse me. So Thursday night we have no clue. Thursday, Tampa Bay is on the downtrend. Atlanta historically and trend wise is a good spot for them to cover. The sharps have already come in and bet Atlanta, taking it from 5.5 to 4.5. So, gun to my head, I like Tampa because they're trying to make the playoffs. Atlanta is playing for nothing, and Kirk Cousins historically does not do well against Todd Bowles. But these are the exact spots that the odds makers are so accurate to their numbers and how they get there that line, we are more going to sit back and just watch and collect the data for that Thursday game. But what I would say is, okay, the first game at the top is Cleveland-Chicago. We don't think that Chicago loses this game outright. We still don't think that Shedeur is a true... He's a backup at best in the NFL. Okay, if somebody said, well, he threw for a lot of yardage this week. Yes, against the absolute worst pass defense in the league, Tennessee, 1. 2, they still lost with all his first team reps, and he's been starting out for a couple of weeks. They moved the ball. Every completed pass that you notice he makes, the receiver's wide open. Again, Chicago's not very good defensively either, but they're much better than Tennessee. But, go back to when Frisco, who's on second and third stringers, but Cleveland couldn't do anything against a decent defense, a middle of 32 defense, 14, 15, 16 rated defense in San Fran with their personnel. Again, Shedeur he's what do they say? Fugazi, fake. He's a joke. He is at best, yes, he can sling it. He's got a decent arm, but he's got a lot of bad habits. He goes backwards more than he should. He throws a lot of interceptions and turns it over a lot. Their defense is so solid. Cleveland's defense is so solid that they can be in any game. That's the problem. But Ben Johnson, the coach, Caleb, the quarterback, their offense, their 2 running backs, and their opportunistic defense, we just don't see Chicago losing this game outright. So this would be one that, yes, if you can afford it, and it's one more team on your round robin, more power to you. I can't afford that much, so I have to pick and choose and be smart about who the money lines I'm putting in. And I'm putting in so many this week that if I can leave anyone off, it helps me. And that's one I definitely plan to leave off. Between Thursday and Cleveland-Chicago, I'll leave those 2 off because both favorites are vying for playoff spots. But then going into it, now, even though Baltimore is vying for a playoff spot, so is Cincy mathematically. And remember I mentioned earlier, so there's a scenario where if Cincy wins this week, they would have to win out, no question. But this week would be the catalyst. Now, they just beat Baltimore at Thanksgiving 2 weeks ago. So, Cincy at home taking points, and Joe Burrow, again, their defense is starting to play a little bit more inspired. Baltimore has a bunch of problems, and like this past week, losing to Pittsburgh the way they did, and the referees not helping their cause any. Cincy's a barking dog, as they say. It's a live dog. That's one. Arizona, Houston. That's one that we don't see Houston losing the game outright. They're a huge favorite. So again, I would leave Arizona off. They've been plucky though. Arizona has gotten blown out by the NFC West, Frisco Rams, and the Seahawks. But everybody else they've played, they've kept it under a touchdown. Keep that in mind. But with Houston at home, playing for what they're playing for and having the defense they have, I don't see Houston losing this game outright, so I'll leave them off. Now we get to the Jets and the Jacksonville. The Jets with the backup quarterback. If Tyrod Taylor's not playing, we don't see Jacksonville losing this game either. Again, Tyrod Taylor plays, it changes the equation. If you have any information or find out at any point Tyrod Taylor's going to play, 12.5 is kind of a good number to take with the Jets. But again, it doesn't look like he's going to play, which is why it's at 12.5. And Jacksonville at home with that humidity, with cold weather team coming into that warm weather in Florida and some other stuff. Jacksonville playing for a playoff spot. Cohen having the team playing right in spite of Trevor Lawrence making a lot of the mistakes he makes in games. We don't see the Jets winning this game outright. Chargers, KC. There's one where you absolutely can see the dog winning outright. They just did on Monday night, and KC's not themselves, though they are at home, but the Chargers are taking 5.5 and need to win this game. So the rundown, I would say, well, let me give you the rundown. Cincy, Cleveland, again, if you can afford it, I would throw in Arizona, and I'm sorry, Cleveland and Arizona, I would throw in if you can afford it. But Cincy, the Jets, depending on, again, if Tyrod's going to play. Buffalo, absolutely taking 1.5. Washington, the Raiders. I'll get to the Raiders in a minute because it's weird. Denver at home, 2-point dog. Green Bay's tough. We get it. They might be the number 1 or 2 team in the NFC according to a lot of strength ratings. New Orleans at home against Carolina, even though they're trying to get a playoff spot. Minnesota on the road at Dallas, Miami on Monday night, and the Chargers, again, the Chargers at KC, definitely. But here's, again, how we would approach this is add as many as you can afford, but the ones, if I had to leave any of those off, I would leave off Cleveland, I would leave off Arizona, and I would leave off the Jets to win outright. Those, I don't like those. Now, you may say, well, Philly and the Raiders. There's a scenario, or historically, that there was a same spot with basically the same number at 11.5. And it was a couple of years ago where it was a playoff team versus a Raiders type team that had no chance. And like Carolina and Green Bay, and like Carolina at the Rams, this team that was not Carolina trying to make a playoff team, but it was like a dumpster fire like the Raiders. But they won in this spot, in or around this week 14-15 scenario, late in the season, against a playoff-bound team as an 11.5-point dog. So, weirdly, history seems to repeat itself in some of these spots. So that one I would leave on. Where, like San Fran, Tennessee, I'm not going to put Tennessee on my money line parlay. Just no chance. Seattle, Indy. I'm not putting Indy on my money line. So again, the teams I told you, the Chargers, Miami, Minnesota, New Orleans, Denver, Raiders, Washington, Buffalo. If you can, and Cincy, if you can afford it, okay, the Jets, Arizona, and Cleveland as well. But those three, I only do it more out of I don't want to miss out just in case, but not high percentage on those three, and it gets expensive, so I would leave them off. Here's the other approach we're looking at. So my son, again, is going to show you the tickets, or has shown you the tickets, and what you're looking at is heavy favorites this past week. And one of the teams you'll see, the demise of the ticket was Philly. But I have a bunch that didn't have the Monday night Philly because I actually liked the Chargers and took them plus the points as the final, because then again you try to middle it, and if Philly, by the way, scores that touchdown at the end of the game in overtime, it literally was the perfect middle because they would have won by 3 or 4, and we had 4.5 on one side, Philly giving 4.5 on one side with all of our Chargers, but we had Philly money line on the opposite side, so we had the Chargers plus 4.5 or up 4, and then we had Philly money line. So there was a lot of extra money to be made there. It didn't work out, but again, we were never in jeopardy. We were playing house money all along the way. What I'm pointing out to you guys with these tickets is simply this. This week, for example, heavy favorites we don't expect to lose. So a money line parlay is going to pay you next to nothing with these. Here's the teams: Houston at home, Jacksonville at home, Rams at home, Seattle at home, and San Fran at home. 5 teamers. They're all minus. Seattle's probably minus like 600 or something. I don't have the numbers in front of me. San Fran also going to be minus anywhere from 5 to 600. The Rams are going to be minus probably 200 to 300 range because they're a 5.5 point favorite against Detroit. That one, be careful though. That one, there are paths where Detroit could win because although it's at the Rams, it's turf. And Detroit is playing desperate, and the Rams just lost to Carolina. So, and Goff, has a chip on his shoulder about the Rams. And there's, trends. There's 2 trends. Again, these are trends you can go either way. What is it? McVay in December is like 16-3, but Goff and the coach coming off a whatever in this particular spot. Oh, and they're a dog of more than 3 or 3.5 or something. And in December or whatever, they're like 20-4. So I can show you a trend to paint your narrative both ways. In this one, of the ones I just read off to you, be careful of the Rams because there's no locks in the NFL. Any one of these teams could lose. But super low percentage or super high percentage in your favor to take Houston, Jacksonville, Seattle, San Francisco, and the Rams the way they've been playing. And what you would take them is a money line parlay for $5, but you would at your kiosk, FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, so forth and so on. You'd bet a bunch of, so pick a game, and you'd be betting like probably 4 to 6 players. So all these same 5, and then add the first player to score, because the first player to score on longer odds is plus 1,000 and higher. A perfect example, one I didn't do this week. It actually crossed my mind. I'm kicking myself. But Pittsburgh, the first scorer to beat Aaron Rodgers was plus 8,000. If I would have added Aaron Rodgers to my teaser, or not my teaser, but my money line parlay with the power teams, all the teams that couldn't lose, which Philly ended up doing. But if you would have added it to just like Seattle, the Rams, Houston was a plus, but Houston, that was one of our calls. But take, like the power teams again, Rams, Jacksonville, all the kind of more sure things. You can see like the Rashid Shaheed, we would have hit it. Philly didn't cover; they lost outright. But Rashid Shaheed was, to me, an obvious first score in a Seattle game. They throw the ball. They try to get Darnold comfortable. He was coming off a bad game of throwing. It was more of a defense, right? Shutting out Minnesota at Seattle. So our thought process was Darnold's going to be throwing it and trying to work out some of the bugs. Well, they've got a bunch of people that can score, but likely it's going to be Rashid Shaheed, especially with returning kickoffs as well. But Rashid Shaheed or Jackson Smith and Jigba. Either way, that was plus 1,000 or more in the first player to score. You don't like the running backs because they're generally low. Although, like the Texans, I show you where Nick Chubb was like plus 1,600. Now, because their other running back is kind of their starter now, the rookie, but he's their third down and out of the backfield, check down back, and at the goal line. So actually, that was a smart bet. And sure enough, Houston checked down to the running back, but it was Woody that was in the game at the time. It should have been Chubb, but in any event, you get the point. And Woody was only like plus 425, so it wasn't worth putting him down. Where in the Kansas City game, the four first scores we had was Mahomes plus 2,000, Xavier Worthy at like plus 4. You'll see it on the ticket, like 12 or 1,400 or something. So that's kind of the obvious too, because if they get close, Mahomes is their running back kind of right now, and at plus 2,000, you love that. And then on the Texan side, it was going to be either Nico Collins, most likely, and again at over plus 1,000, and or Nick Chubb. So you go, well, Joe, you're betting all these different bets, so it's costing, yes, but it's only $5 or $10 each. And if one, just one, comes through, it pays for the whole weekend and then some. Because look at the payouts. For a $5 bet, you're getting over $200, almost $300 return. Some of them on a $10 bet. Again, Aaron Rodgers doing the first score, and then you took like a 4 or 5 teamer of all the money line powers like Green Bay, Rams, Seattle, Jacksonville, and who the more likely playoff contenders. Like now the Patriots. Now there's no bye weeks either, so you're going to have all the power teams in play. But unfortunately, Buffalo and New England play each other this week. But again, this week, power teams we love. Green Bay, Denver, careful, because they're both high ranked. And although Detroit and the Rams are both playoff contenders, Detroit is scratching and clawing. But that's why we say be careful with Detroit. It's the one upset we can see happening, or it's not unlikely to happen. But me personally, like, I would approach it this way for this week. I would take the 5, Houston, Jacksonville, Rams, Seattle, and San Fran, and then lessen it with by 1 and take Houston, Jacksonville, Seattle, and San Fran. Now, with those, they're all minus, meaning you're going to be, barely breaking even, and all of them have to win, right? A 4-teamer or a 5-teamer has to win for you to just basically get even money. But that's what we're telling you. Then add the first score. Play around, figure out some stuff. Okay, for instance, Buffalo. Buffalo's a good one. The New England, it's probably going to be either Booty or Diggs, right? And if you can get, or Hunter Henry, I do all 3 as long as they're plus 1,000, plus 900. Okay, you're kind of like scraping the bottom of the barrel, but plus 900 is good enough. But those 3 guys at 5, 5, and 5 with $5, $5, and $5. So the 5-teamers, and if you really want a more sure thing, a 4-teamer, leave the Rams off, and you're going $5 or $10 a piece, and take those 3 players. And hey, the quarterback, he hasn't run one in, I don't think, yet this year. That would be interesting. If he's plus like 5,000 or more, what's $5 to cover him as well? I'd do it. Especially Aaron Rodgers reminds me, don't ever count the quarterbacks out. Because another one was Bo Nix this week. He was the first score in the Denver game, Denver Raiders. And so, God, I know he was well over. He was at least plus 2,000, which makes it a worthy pick. Now, anyway, going back to Buffalo. On the flip side, you're going to take Josh Allen as long as he's plus. With him, he's so high probability that I would take him at plus 700 because of his high probability, because of the way that team plays. And then I would take the 2 tight ends, right? Or take the tight end who's played more or got more receptions the last few weeks. Go look it up. Which tight end is more involved in the game script, and take either Knox or Kincaid as one if you can only afford one. And then with Buffalo, I would, I guess, do one of their receivers, like their most go-to receiver, because they don't really have a wide receiver one on that team. That's why I personally would do Josh Allen and the 2 tight ends. Again, Cook's not good enough because the running back, he's probably going to be at best a plus 450 at best. Not really worth offsetting this favorites parlay, money line parlay you're going to do. Now, again, game script, it's not as hard as you think. Tampa Bay, Atlanta, that's a tough one. Who knows? But Atlanta's got limited resources right now with their wide receiver out. So I would say Pitts, and I would say maybe Mooney, and those are like the two guys that other than Bijan, but Bijan's going to be too low odds wise. So I would take Mooney and I would take Pitts as long as they're plus 900 or more. On Tampa Bay is interesting, but I would absolutely take Emeka Egbuka. I'd take probably the tight end. If Mike Evans is coming back and he's at least plus 1,000, that's a good one. Baker and him have a connect, and they'd want to get him reestablished. So that would be an interesting one. So go team by team, and you'll see. Again, let's look at Cincinnati. Who's going to score with Cincinnati, right? It's going to be, and especially if T. Higgins is out. I don't know if he's going to be out, but if he's out, then Jamar Chase, definitely high probability. But again, you need him at like plus 700. If he's less than that, not really worth the squeeze. But for Baltimore, look at the numbers, look at the odds. Mark Andrews plus 1,000 or more, high probability. Zay Flowers plus 1,000 or more, it's worth it and to cover it. The Raiders, it's going to be the Raiders is going to be their tight end, and that's it. For Philly, I would do both the wide receivers and Goddard, AJ Brown, and the other wide receiver and Goddard. As long as they're plus 900 or higher. Green Bay's a little tricky because he spreads it to everybody. So that one, you'd have to probably take the most likely that's going to be playing wide receiver with the longest odds at plus 1,000 or more. So you'd have to filter between Watson and Golden. There's so many. The tight end, he loves spreads it around. So that one's a little tough. But I would take like the longer odds receivers. I'd find me one or two receivers and the tight end as long as they're all plus 1,000 or more. Denver, same thing. I would do Bo Nix because he runs. As long as it's plus 2,000 or more, and like probably Cortland Sutton, the tight end Ingram is again plus 1,000 or more. The Rams, not really rocket science. They use a lot of their tight end sets, and then you've got Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. Problem with those two is probably not going to be plus 900 or higher. But those two are so high probability, especially Devontae Adams, that again, you got to kind of be a little fluid and teach yourself a little bit and learn some stuff. Devontae Adams, for me, if he's plus 700 or more, I'm putting him down because of the high probability. And with that one, Stafford's not running. No matter what, Stafford's not running, so don't worry about that quarterback. Carolina, Tet, the rookie wide receiver, and I would do maybe they're two wide receivers, just strict. There's two wide receivers, and then New Orleans, their hot new wide receiver, I think Vele or something, and even Tyler Shug to run it in. Again, Seattle, kind of easy. Their game script has been pretty consistent through the year. I would do Rashid Shaheed and Njigba and the tight end and leave it at that with Seattle. Although Seattle's quarterback took off running this week, that added a little wrinkle, and he's more than capable of using his legs. I wouldn't count him out. I wouldn't take him at anything less, though, than plus 3,000. Like, again, the juice has to be worth the squeeze with some of these. So, again, teach yourself those things. Like Purdy with San Francisco. Not a high percentage runner, but if he's plus more than 4,000, 3,000, 4,000 plus, it's for $5, it's worth it because it's more than likely Houston, Jacksonville, Seattle, and San Francisco all win outright. They may not cover, but they'll all win outright, right? There's a high percentage. That four-teamer, and then you add Purdy at plus 5,000 to be the first scorer, and he does it, $5 probably gets you 400 or something high in that nature, maybe more. So that's what I'm getting at. with all of these. So just another way for you guys to learn and understand how to make a $5 or $10 bet pay off big. So we'll start you guys off there for this week. Another thing with those 5 teams, Houston, Jacksonville, Rams, Seattle, and Frisco, and especially the Rams, I would then add them on in a teaser scenario because it's a 5-team teaser, and you're still going to be laying points with Houston, with Jacksonville, with Seattle, and San Fran. You're still going to have to win, just not by the big margin, but you're going to have to win by probably like a touchdown or a little less on occasion. But with the Rams, you'd be taking a couple points. Right now, if you gave me, I don't care what, Rams at home in the scenario they're in, and I'm plus even 1, I'm loading up on that. And remember, I told you, like, well, I don't like any game more than another. I bet pretty evenly. That might be the exception to the rule here because the Rams, again, are probably going to they're going to the playoffs, but they're the odds-on favorite right now to go to the Super Bowl if you look at the odds right now. And speaking of that, the last thing I wanted to touch on was just that. So with some of these scenarios in the AFC North, we don't know we have no idea what's coming with those teams. It's so right now up in the air. But if you think Baltimore and or Cincinnati, and both are kind of long shots, both are absolute long shots to win the Super Bowl, we wouldn't bet them to win the North. There's not enough juice for the squeeze. But you know, they always say, especially in the NFL, once you make the tournament, whole different season, anything's possible. You've seen weirder things happen, like the Giants, who were a 7 seed and like the longest shot to make the Super Bowl. They got in and they beat the undefeated Patriots back in the day, and it was the upset of the decade. You don't count any of these guys out. All of them are pros, and once you make the tournament, it's a whole different ball game, and some weird bounces, some weird referee calls, who knows. And so my only point is that I'm heading down this week before the games, because with Cincy and Baltimore, and that's the thing, it's going to kind of weed one of them out. Whoever loses this game is pretty much done. But Cincy or Baltimore, either way, if one of them one of them will win, and then Pittsburgh happens to lose on Monday night, it's a dogfight again. And even Baltimore, let's say Baltimore were to lose to Cincy, it really would be all 3 of them still at risk with 3 games to go to who would win the North. But anyway, we see a path in that. It's not like they're not going to go to the Super Bowl. We don't think they're not going to win it, but you're hedging. So for $25 to get a huge return, plus 5,000, plus 10,000, something of that nature, or whatever, to go to win the Super Bowl, right? But if you can get into the tournament, you get that ticket in the tournament. You can play against that ticket in each round of the playoffs, depending on if you're taking or giving points, etc. So it's a leverage play and a hedge play, and again, it's just kind of a weird scenario in where it actually gives you some leverage and some hedge power, because Baltimore, Cincy, and Pittsburgh are just, none of them seem good enough, and none of them seem to want to close it out. But in that sense, they're all long shots to win the Super Bowl. But God, can you imagine, like they're talking about Buffalo this year, that this was their year to win the Super Bowl, because finally they probably will not have to see KC in the AFC Championship game or Baltimore. And maybe even Burrow. So this was their time, but they've also dropped a few games they shouldn't have dropped. And so if there's a lot of experts, not us per se, but there's a lot of experts that truly believe that if Buffalo does not win it this year, that they're never going to win it with Josh Allen, which is really sad, because he is such a phenom and one of the better quarterbacks and athletes in this league. But whenever you have to go to Kansas City and play in the AFC Championship, or go up to the like Cincy, always dangerous. Baltimore, if you have to go up to Baltimore with historically some of the defenses they've had, and Lamar Jackson and so forth and so on, at playing his best, it's a tough ask. It's a tough out. But Buffalo, this was their chance or their year, but the AFC is kind of up for grabs and really convoluted. Your number one and number two seeds are Denver and Patriots, and in the NFC, it feels like the power was in the AFC for a long time. And Troy Aikman said the other night on Monday Night Football, and I agree that it feels like it has shifted back to the NFC, where you have clear-cut power teams in Green Bay, the Rams, and Seattle at that top level, and then right beneath them, you also have, Philly still fight. I don't know what happens with Philly, but Tampa Bay and Carolina. Tampa Bay is kind of on the decline. Carolina's on the incline, but they're dangerous and they're chock full of talent teams. And then San Francisco, you keep waiting for them to fall apart with all their injuries, and especially their linebacker and their edge rusher both being done for the season. Everyone thought they were done. Their starting quarterback was out for a few weeks. Kittles was out for a few weeks. They really haven't had a number one wide receiver this year to rely on, and they just keep winning with Salah's defense, and whether it's Purdy or Mac, either way, they seem to just keep winning because Shanahan and the coaching and the culture and the team mindset over there. So they're a dangerous team. San Francisco is not to be taken lightly. And finally, with Philly's woes, although Dallas, we don't put Dallas in that tier, offensively, Dallas is as dangerous as anybody in the league. They're like Burrow with Higgins and Chase. They've got CeeDee Lamb and Pickens, two number one wide receivers on any given team in the NFL. They've got both of them. They've got a reliable tight end. They've got a running game. And now with Quincy, they had the kid that they drafted come off of injury, and the other trade for the linebacker. Their defense is not a top tier defense, but they've become serviceable and they hold. And so Dallas is definitely on the rise and dangerous coming out of the East. We see a path that if Dallas just wins out and Philly drops one more, who knows? Anything is possible this year in the NFL. And Detroit scratching and fighting, and they're on the outside looking in. But look at how much talent's on that team. So again, we're just saying. Anyway, going back to this teaser and this parlay. So the teaser we like because you kind of would get a little bit more odds for your money, and so you wouldn't need that first score. You just Houston, Jacksonville, Rams, Seattle, and San Fran on and then what I would do is I would take a 6 team to add odds to it, and we would take Miami on Monday night plus the 11, because you're going to take a 7.5 point teaser where I'm at. So that 7.5 plus 3.5 is 11, and then on Monday night I would just bet Pittsburgh minus I'd buy back 2 points and get Pittsburgh minus 1.5. Maybe the line goes down enough between now and then that you've got Pittsburgh at even, and you don't have to actually bet the money line. It's literally even at minus 110 or something of that nature. That's possible. It could happen, but in any event. What we would do is, because then you're looking to hedge it, right? If you got you stand to gain $500 on this teaser with Miami plus 11, oh my God! And then you got Pittsburgh at anywhere from even to minus 1, minus 1.5. Again, you can't lose both, but that is a really nice middle. And with the cold weather and in Pittsburgh, although we think on a neutral field, we think Miami is a little bit better right now. Pittsburgh at home, definitely we would, if gun to our head at less than a field goal, we would have to take Pittsburgh gun to our head. So again, it looks like it's a good middle opportunity because Pittsburgh doesn't blow anybody out. So that, to my point, where Miami could blow them out if they got rolling. But again, Pittsburgh hasn't and won't blow anybody out. So you got that going for you there. Anyway, so we will check back in with you guys, of course, on Friday night with our picks this week. Congratulations again to all the winners for following us. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. All your time that you pick up and listen to us. Again, like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I will tell you that we could have some surprises. And again, we will be covering the college bowls and playoff games going into it. We are also going to restart at the beginning of the year, we did the double up every week, double the bet. We're going to start this week. We're going to give you a double up team that we're going to put our money where our mouth is. I don't know what team that is yet, but I'm looking for this week again to be more about quality than quantity. And because we're giving you all the side other stuff to think about, that like last week, it's probably going to be 3 teams at most that we're giving you in terms of sides. We're definitely looking at a couple here, but there are some tricky ones this week because some of the lines are just chalky and huge. So be careful and check back in, check with all your other experts and so forth. And what I found is when I get a bunch of the guys who are high quality and high percentage all hitting on the same thing, that's when we know that we've got something a little special brewing here. So we will get you guys back on Friday night again. So until then, and by the way, happy holidays going into this month. And we'll get back with you guys on Friday about our picks. And until then, aloha, mahalo, be good to yourselves, be kind to each other, and peace out.